All right. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jamie Blanchard. I'm with Rockwell Automation. Today's presentation is on Thim Manager. Is everybody here for Thim Manager? Perfect. Perfect. Anybody here currently using Thim Manager? And any of your, even better, that means people might want to buy something. I've done presentations before where everybody has the product. I'm like, turn off the camera. You already own it. I don't need to sell you anything. They're like, I'm here to learn. I'm like, this is not for learning.
You just bought two of them.
Bought two thin clients? Perfect. Who here is an end user? Meaning you work for a manufacturer, you have a manufacturing facility of some sort. Raise your hands high. What do y'all do, Jordan?
Well, I was just going to tell him, I raised my hand because we're also a systems integrator, but we work at pretty much exclusively at a pretzel factory, like 24/7.
So you're like on site. You're
our own office there.
You're pimped out over there.
Yeah.
All right. Who else raised their hand? End user. What do you do, Butch?
Well, right now I'm pharmaceutical too. They finished shutting down.
They're shutting the pharmaceutical plant down?
Yeah, that's why I work at.
Are y'all, what's New Pig?
Industrial absorbents. We manufacture our own absorbents, things.
What do you have an HMI SCADA in your facility?
Yes.
What do you use? If it's not Rockwell, it's okay.
No, it's Rockwell.
Factory Talk View?
Yeah.
So you're using Factory Talk USD distributed?
Yes.
Who else? I talked to you folks. Who else? End users.
Catalytic converter manufacturer.
Catalytic converter? You HMI SCADA, what do you have there?
It's Wonderware.
Wonderware, In Touch? Do you
System platform.
system platform? Okay. I used to be a Wonderware distributor in the Southeast. I remember when Orchestra was introduced. I'm like, what is this Orchestra thing? Object-based automation. Anybody else? End users? Yes, sir.
Water treatment plant.
Water treatment, perfect. Anybody else? Systems integrators. I don't want to make you feel bad. So, systems integrators, I think we all know systems integrators. You go to a lot of different places, deploy multiple platforms, correct?
Whatever they want.
Whatever they want. All right. So I just want to get an understanding of who was in the room so I can the next 40 minutes or so, kind of like tailor. The product can be complex sometimes to explain. Is everybody comfortable with server-based computing, like Microsoft Remote Desktop Services? Server-based, virtual desktops, cloud, let's call it like web server-based applications. Okay, all right. So Thim Manager, just a little introduction of myself, it'll actually kind of help with the talk of what is Thim Manager. So Thim Manager itself has been on the market for about 21 years. I started selling it 21 years ago when I didn't have gray hair and I didn't have 4 kids. I had 1 maybe, I think, at the time. And the goal of the product then and the goal of the product today is to remove PCs. Part of the goal is to remove PCs from the plant floor. We don't want you to have any processing, as minimal processing as you can in your plant or in your control room. So 21 years ago, the founders, we were a systems integration firm. We were doing a large projects. We say, why are these people deploying all these applications? In Touch was the predominant HMI at that time, Windows-based application. Why are they deploying all these applications and using PCs? You have to load the operating system. There's a lot of application licensing. It's just a problem to deploy manage. So like every good product or service, our software developers created Thim Manager. We got out of the systems integration business probably 2 years after we developed Thim Manager. It became such a successful product that we just focused on Thim Manager. Thim Manager, I worked for them. I worked for a Wonderware distributor for about 10 years. So very familiar with all the HMI SCADAs from the now Aviva world. And then I was hired to build the Thim Manager product in the world. So I worked for ACP and it was 9 of us. 7 years later, Rockwell acquired us. So I've been with now Rockwell almost since 2016 as part of the acquisition. I thought I was going to leave after 2 years after my contract was over, but Rockwell's been a great company to work for. So I'm going to stick around until they tell me to move on, which I don't think they will because they need software salespeople. So as I mentioned, the goal is remove that processing from the plant floor. You have, each PC has an operating system. You have applications, you have your licenses, antivirus protection, you have moving parts. Becomes a tremendous amount of time and money to manage and maintain all those PCs out on your plant floor. I call that PC sprawl. And when I first started selling the product, that was important to a lot of our customers. When I used to do demos of Thim Manager, I would literally put a server on a cart and bring it into a plant and have a server to do a Thim Manager demo. My demo, here's my server right here. I have 5 virtual machines running on my server. So I can put this server in my pocket. So the goal then and is today is remove the processing from the end devices. Locate all of your applications, or as many as you can, on some type of server-based platform, like Microsoft Remote Desktop Services, virtual desktop infrastructure, web-based applications. More and more, most of these software companies are developing web-based applications where you're not even deploying a Windows platform like Remote Desktop Services. We're going to locate everything on some type of web server. The end devices will be thin clients. No hard drive, no operating system, no moving media. So when we developed Thim Manager, it was how do we take, because when we first developed Thim Manager, the thin clients were commercial grade thin clients. This is a commercial, I'll pass these around, just show and tell. Back in the day, a thin client was about this big. It wasn't really that thin. It was pretty big in today's world. This is a commercial grade thin client from Intel. It's called an Intel NUC. This is the VersaView thin client. The insides are fairly similar, meaning has a processor, a little bit of memory, but there's no hard drive, there's no operating system. It's considered a zero client. So I'll pass it around and wherever it goes. Again, it's not much to it. If you want to see it, there you go. The thin clients are where you're going to connect the keyboard, your mouse, your display, and any peripheral devices, torque gauges, scales. We have multi-monitor thin clients. All the applications are managed on your server. So just centralizing, if you say, you know what, I don't want to buy Thim Manager, just centralizing all your applications on a server and using some type of server-based computing platform is going to save you a lot of time and effort. Adding Thim Manager brings you a lot of value, in which I'll go through as we step through the presentation. So Thim Manager itself is not just a thin client management product. We call it a content delivery solution. Thim Manager can connect to a lot of content. Again, as I mentioned, any Windows-based application. Thim Manager is neutral, so again, it could be any Windows-based applications. I work with customers that are using Emerson Delta V, Yokogawa, Wonderware, Ignition. Those are more web-based applications, but Word, Excel, SAP, all the maintenance management applications, Logix. So all those applications you can locate in a cloud on your remote desktop servers. We can connect to any web-based content, as I mentioned earlier. Panel views. How many people have panel views or panel products in their facility? Lots of them. Most panel views support VNC, virtual network connectivity. So that thin client is something that panel view, we can actually do what's called a connect to that panel view and actually shadow that panel view screen from a thin client. I didn't bring up my entire demo system. That would be crazy. I have a table with a bigger demo system down in the expo floor. So feel free to come down if you want to see more. So we can connect to panel view screens, IP cameras, or USB-based cameras. Again, I didn't bring up my camera. We can also connect to other terminals. So this screen, this thin client is connected to this screen. So this screen, I can shadow that from another terminal. So think of this screen as content. Once I connect to that content, I can deliver it to multiple types of devices. As the ones you're passing around, Thim Manager Ready is the industrial hardened. That you can set up to do static or DHCP. The thin client, the Intel NUC, is PXE or UEFI. These are all network boot technologies. So you have to set up the thin client itself, just a simple static or DHCP or PXE or UEFI, the thin client, and then we'll connect and manage those devices. iPads, Androids, Windows platform, Windows mobile devices, we support all of those platforms. So you can have a lot of options of what type of end device the user is going to interface with. It does not have to be just a thin client. We deliver content based on a user's profile or permissions. Something I have, my Rockwell badge that I never use. Something I know, password or PIN. So as I log into a terminal, badge in, log in, I'm going to deliver content based on that profile. That's good for two things, a lot of things actually. It's good for pharmaceuticals, use it a lot for 21 CFR Part 11. So I'm going to badge into a terminal, who's the operator, when they badge in, we know who they are, what they're doing, where are they making changes to the batch, whatever it is. We do it from a security perspective. Customers say, I don't want a user just walking up to a terminal and changing parameters or interfacing with this machine unless they have permissions. So they'll say, okay, if you're an operator and you're not trained to use that, you badge in and you're not going to have access to that screen. It's a blank screensaver. Then you get into the idea that customers, how many people here have companies that are short-staffed with people? Everybody, right? Rockwell, we can't find anybody to work. A lot of my manufacturing customers, same problem. So how do we do more with less? So a lot of our customers are saying, okay, everybody's got one of these. Why keep all of my great information stuck on a laptop or on a server or somewhere upstairs? When the user walks up to a terminal, they badge in, they'll deliver whatever information they need at that location. So time and place, efficiency. How do I do more with less? My brother is a director for a large food manufacturer. One plant alone in PA is down 60 people. Warehouse, operations, it's pretty bad. They can't get products out the door. So how do you do more with what they have? IT. And then lastly, well, not lastly, but I'll talk about version 13, which is just released this week. We also deliver content based on your location. Where are you physically located? We use what's called resolving technologies, a QR code or quick response code. Think of that as a landmark. So I have an asset, an area. I create a QR code that's associated to that asset. And then when a user scans that QR code, we'll go grab content based on that location. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. I have customers that are using this technology where they evaluated the cost of a physical OIT. So a Hoffman enclosure, network power, industrial hardened touchscreen, thin clients, all the work, 10 to 15 grand per OIT. They said, why don't we look at areas of opportunity and say where the operator is not always interfacing with that machine. I'll put a QR code, and when an operator scans that QR code, we'll bring up the HMI screen for that piece of equipment. One plant alone, they saved, 10 times 60, was that 60 grand or something like that? That's how much money they saved just from a capital expenditure by going to QR codes. You're probably saying 60 PCs, that's a lot of thin clients. Well, a lot of these, I have plants that have 1,500 to 2,000 thin clients in their facility because they're interfacing with a lot of MES type applications. So that's from a capital expenditure, and they're using Thim Manager to manage that content delivery. What are the benefits? You're lowering your total cost of ownership. That's right. When you try to do a project, before I got in sales, I worked for an environmental firm. If I wanted to buy something, I had to justify it. How do I justify buying this thing? What is it? It can lower my total cost of ownership. There's some type of return on investment. So when you're locating all your applications in a server, that's going to reduce your time, money. We talked about productivity. Visualization is important. How do I see more to make better decisions? Security is paramount. A lot of our customers are saying, I got to spend a lot of money to secure all these PCs. Thin clients, you don't have to do anything to them. Just secure your servers. With a customer last week, they didn't know about Thim Manager 2 years ago, and they said, well, yeah, we spent almost 6 months updating all of my PCs in this plant. They had about 100 PCs, 6 months. He could have done that with Thim Manager in days, maybe less. All right, so that's just an example of all the thin clients. There's even more that I have. that from a thin client perspective. So everything from single monitor up to thin clients that have up to 7 video outputs, control rooms. So if you're doing any type of control room deployment, 1 keyboard, 1 mouse, up to 7 4K monitors. So I do a lot of work with water, wastewater, people building control rooms. One of my customers, a large chemical plant, they had it budgeted for 15 thin clients because they needed 15 screens and 3 control rooms, 5 screens in each control room. Like, I need 15 screens and 15 thin clients. Well, I'm like, no, you don't. You just need 1 thin client with 3 video outputs. So I went from making a decent amount of money to not much because he only needed 3 licenses and only 3 clients, which is okay. They continue to buy more because they're expanding their facility. But
Got a question. Can you have different things on each display?
heck yeah. Yeah, you can have lots. I'll talk about that in a second. Yes, sir.
Can you manipulate, does one screen have to be dedicated or?
No, you can move that crap all around. Yeah, you can. So as an administrator, I'll show you. As an administrator, you can say, this is how it's going to start off, but the operators can choose where they put their applications or their content. So I was with Clorox last week. I live in Maryland, in the Baltimore area, and Clorox has a plant in Aberdeen, Maryland, and they're building a control room, and that's exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted the operators to be able to move things around because everybody has different ways of looking at things, right? I don't like seeing things that way, so they can manipulate the screens and move them around. Any questions? All right. So it is a network boot thin client, meaning that doesn't have a hard drive and operating system. So how does it work? So the Thin Manager server is this application right here, and that's what I'm responsible for. Located on a server somewhere on your network, and that's the thin client. You'll do all the configuration of that thin client on the user interface, the GUI, and then the thin client's going to boot up. It's going to download our firmware. It's going to download its configuration. And that can take, I'll show you what it looks like. It can take seconds to do all that. The profile will be delivered. Which touchscreens, what things do you have attached to it? What applications am I going to launch? And then now you're up and running. So it's the operators. My first project was actually same city as Frito-Lay, Aberdeen. In Aberdeen, Maryland, there's a Frito-Lay facility. And the plant manager and the plant engineer we're like, yeah, we have to upgrade our PCs. This was, we need a 21st century technology. This was like the early 2000s. They were my first customers deploying Thin Manager in a facility. I had a couple before that, but the first major one. And they're like, you have, and this is when I was doing integration as well. He's like, you have Friday is shut down. You have Saturday and Sunday to do the project. So we did everything in our lab, set up all the servers, converting all the applications, all the InTouch applications to remote desktop services, getting all the networks, changing from DH Plus to AB TCP. So we did all that in our labs. We get there Friday. The plant manager's like, oh, we're not producing, but we're cleaning. You have to have the HMIs to clean. So we actually it took us 2 hours to get the first one set up and running. So it's really quick. So the operators didn't even know. In fact, when they were doing it, they're like, wow, this is faster. Because we didn't have all this data going through my network with PLCs and PCs. We had a HMI server and the fast network. So when they were acknowledging alarms or changing set points, it was actually much quicker. But what I'm getting to is the operators, they didn't really notice. I mean, it wasn't much of a change to them. So again, you could have just a simple screen like I'm showing you here. The other value proposition is the idea that if I'm going to go to a server-based computing architecture, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, right? So if I'm going to have a primary and a secondary remote desktop server, we call that failover. So if a server fails, the thin client's making connections to both servers. It's the same application, primary and secondary. If the primary fails, the secondary is cascaded behind it, and it'll continue to run and function. We deal with some of the most I deal with a lot of government agencies and companies that have high availability as necessary, and that's one of the things they love, is the idea that I can have 2 servers, and if one fails, or if I want to do maintenance on this server, the thin client I'll just fail over to the secondary and I'll do maintenance on that server. The operators never lose access. So they don't have to come at 2 o'clock in the morning or weekends or 4th of July to do upgrades. They can do upgrades on the server, patch fixes, whatever they need to do, and they have the secondary servers available. So highly available is the name of the game. Redundancy means 2 Thin Manager servers. Same concept is these are really important applications. We have a primary and secondary, and they're synchronized. So the database, if you make any changes, it's synchronized. Again, you don't have to worry about it. If the server goes down, you're up and running. The concept that we deal with when we're talking about the control rooms, multiple applications, is called multi-sessioning. And what you're seeing up here is called tiling. And that is the idea that I can have multiple types of content, 2 FactoryTalk View SC client instances, an ME, and then a panel view shadow. So that one thin client can view all that information simultaneously. So that's called a tile. What that means is, you're probably like, what the hell does that mean, Jamie? Well, I'll tell you. That means that Thin Manager places those tiles where they are. You as an administrator don't determine where it's located. So some of our customers said, I hate that. I'll show you how we fix that. Multi-monitor is up to 7 monitors, as I said. Each monitor can have its own unique content. Question I get asked quite often is, how many things can I have on a thin client, like screens? Like if I have 7 screens, it's really, you have to think about what can the human eye see and really look at and understand, and also how powerful is that thin client. So we say about 25 sessions per thin client. So again, you could have this tile, you could have 7, you could probably have up to 7 screens with those 4 tiles. So 28 different, think of it, 28 different SE applications running. That's crazy. And 1 keyboard, 1 mouse. So when you're building control rooms, there's no other technology like it. So I mentioned earlier, tiling is when Thin Manager says, okay, I'm going to put these things here. Virtual screens, you as an administrator design that screen. You're the artist. You have a canvas, and you decide where that content will be located. So the screen, the physical screen, like this monitor, is your canvas. And then you decide where those virtual screens will be located. And then same thing, the operator can move those virtual screens around wherever they'd like.
Can you go into a little more detail about if you have time, panel view plus 7s? So what we run into in pharmaceutical, you get a lot of skids, a lot of machines from Europe and everything, and they all have VNC on them, which I have enabled, and I use type VNC or
Type VNC, right.
Put the IP address in, and I take over to HMI.
Yep.
Does this do it simpler?
Yes, I'll show you.
Okay.
I don't have a panel view, but I'll show you what it would look like. And then user-based content delivery. Living on the East Coast, I deal a lot with pharmaceuticals and biotech. That just seems to be a lot of what I do. But now I handle all of Canada and half the United States, so I deal with everything. So I travel. I used to travel a lot, and then COVID hit, and it's been great. Content delivery based on who you are. What I have, password or PIN, something I know. We manage all of that. It's Active Directory integrated. So if you have Active Directory, we can actually integrate with Active Directory, so you don't have to manage your users independently. We take advantage of biometrics, thumbprint readers. We were almost ready to have facial recognition, and then COVID hit, and everybody's wearing a mask. So we're like, stop. Why use our development time when you can't see their faces? So we started working. We have now what's called a NIMI band. NIMI band, think about it, this is a Fitbit, but a NIMI band is a wearable. A user puts it on their arm, they take their thumbprint, and now that band is associated to that user and your heart rate. So now you've signed in. I'm Jamie Blanchard. I'm wearing my NIMI band. I walk up to a terminal. I badge in. It's biometrics. You take it off, you're disassociated from that band. So I can't say, here's my band. You can have it. You can't do that. Like this, I could give it to somebody. Here, just badge in, get in. Or what if you need a password or PIN? Oh, it's simple. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With the NIMI band, you can't do that. So that's more, we developed that more for our pharmaceutical customers. They
See, our kind of, we try to push through the RF and everything, where you walk up to the machine and log in and stuff, and none of that was allowed. They wanted you to actually still authenticate by using your username and password.
Right.
Allow you to use any kind of.
Yeah, NIMI band, you can't, you can't spoof that, right? So you have to have so that's just some of the content that you can, again, I'm just using that as an example. We develop a lot of cool technology. Are we going to do facial recognition? Probably one day. All right, location-based mobility. So again, from a mobile perspective, how do I get that information to that user as quickly as I can? So we take advantage of QR or quick response codes. We do for outdoor positioning systems, we do use GPS. So oil and gas, wastewater, they have pumping stations. I'll take a GPS coordinates of that pumping station, and now that content is associated to that GPS coordinate. So when a user drives their truck up to that pumping station, I get the GPS coordinates. They probably have a good cellular. They get there. The manager says, okay, you're already logged into your terminal. We know who you are. You get to that GPS coordinate. Give me the HMI screen for that pump. So that's the type of stuff that we're doing from a mobility standpoint. So it could be QR codes, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi would be more indoor positioning systems. GPS would be more of an outdoor positioning system. Where are you as an operator? We developed this technology probably 8 years ago, where we had a mobile platform, and one of my customers said, we love Thim Manager. We're not going to be taking advantage of your app, your ITMC. We have an HMI associated. HMI is associated to that iPad. So when I launch it, it launches. I think it was InTouch at the time, but I'm going to launch my HMI application. But I have operators that are in the control room, in the break room, controlling machines. I can't do that. So they say, well, let's do some type of indoor positioning. So let's do Bluetooth beacons. So, okay, we'll put a Bluetooth by that machine. You have to come within range of that Bluetooth. We know where you are. And then you got to scan that QR code. Well, actually, we started with this. He's like, well, now my operators are smart. They just take a picture of that QR code and they can scan it, and now they can have their HMI screen on their iPad. I'm like, you guys got to hire some better people. And then we came out with Bluetooth. Like, you could unbolt that, right, from the machine. I'm going to put it in my pocket, and I'm going to take a picture of that QR code, and I'm going to control the machine. So that's from a safety perspective. A lot of it now is just efficiency. How quickly can I get that information to my users? And I'm getting aged. I'm getting older. I have 4 kids. They will watch. They're comfortable with these. This is what they like. My daughter and my kids will sit and watch a full feature film on their iPad or their iPhone laying horizontal in bed. So they're comfortable doing that, right? So our operators now, our knowledge workers, want to have access to information via their mobile platforms. That's part of what we do. If you don't give it to them, they're going to go somewhere else. All right, let me show you what it looks like. So my demo system is pretty simplistic here, but again, I have a better setup downstairs. This is my server. I'm running VMware ESXi, but we don't care, whatever virtualization platform you want to use. I'm running, maybe do I have it set up? Let me see if I have it. I remember now from the last time I did this in 2019, this room was hot. They had me in here. Is it hot in here, or is it just me because I'm talking? It's warm. Yeah. So that server right there has 4 virtual machines running, a domain controller, and 3 servers. One's called HMI, and the other's called RDS1 and RDS2. Most of my content is located on RDS1 and 2. I have SE, I have Logix, I have a bunch of other applications running on those virtual servers. The bottom one, demo._app, is actually a virtual thin client, which I don't need because I have a physical thin client here. So I'm connecting to this server, RDS1. I'm just using remote desktop services from my laptop to connect to that remote desktop server, and I'm viewing Thim Manager, which is on that desktop. So as an administrator, you can see, I'm going to sit down because I'm standing in front, probably blocking some of my screens. As an administrator, you can sit in your chair and do everything. So as an administrator, I can highlight any terminal. So what I'm looking at now is a user interface. So I have a tab down here called Terminal. So I can look at all the terminals in my facility. I've created a group called Wired. I can see control room is red. Why do you think that is? Because it's downstairs. It's not connected. So that would be quickly say, hey, this thin client failed. What's happened? So I can go to it, and I can go to the event logs, and I can see who's logged in, what happened, monitor was connected, so I can do triage, what happened to that unit. I can actually highlight another terminal, and I can go over to the shadow tab. So as an administrator, I can shadow any terminal in my facility. Great for commissioning. So when I was commissioning the plant in the Frito-Lay plant, I sent out one of my electricians, said plug it in, you do all the electrical work, and I'll sit in here. He plugged it in, and I could shadow his terminal. And I could see everything that was going on out in the plant from a commissioning standpoint. From a end user, or just, I'm an administrator, I can see what the operator sees. I can interface with the application. So I can interface with that terminal as if I'm standing in front of it. So I'm shadowing it. For those that can't see that little screen here, it's connected to this thin client, and I'm shadowing it, and I can control it. So it's great for training. Say, hey, I got a new operator. They're having some troubles. Let me shadow your terminal, and I'll just step you through. Let's take a look at what's happening. I don't have to put on my hard toes, my steel toes, my PPE. I can just go into my Thin Manager interface, and I can see exactly what they see. I can do it from a mobile platform as well. So I'm going to go ahead and launch my iPad. You can see it goes green. I'm going to log in as a user. I'm going to show you this in a second. I can see Mark is now on that iPad. He's a maintenance person. I can highlight that iPad, and I can see exactly what he sees on that iPad. So it's not just a thin client, it could be a mobile device. So as you have your operators walking around, yes, sir?
Can you actually take over as well?
Yes.
Okay. Instead of shadow.
Yep.
So is the difference between shadow, is shadow, you can actually make changes, but the user isn't seeing the screen changes. Like if you would go to a different screen, the user would not see that.
Oh no, you're shadowing it. It's as if you're sitting right in front of it. Yeah, that's called administrative shadowing. Yeah.
Okay. Can you do it like as another client or no? Okay.
No, you'd have to set up a new session, a new client. Yeah. So I'm done with the iPad. It goes green. It goes red. I can go again, look at the event logs, see who's logged in, Mark logged off, what time. I think this time is all messed up, I think. I'm good. Let's see. So first off, we have to connect to the servers that are hosting the applications. As I mentioned, most of my content is located on the two servers, RDS1 and RDS2. Everything we do is wizard-based, meaning you don't have to go to class to understand our product. We recommend you take some of our training. We have online training. It's free. It's self-paced, so at least go through some of the training. But again, a lot of our customers don't because it's a pretty simple product. Everything is wizard-based. So as I'm setting up, connecting to the servers, what's the name of the server? What's the IP address? Maybe I just know the name and it'll auto-discover. I put some administrative username and passwords in there. Again, depends on how many servers you have, physical or virtual. My largest, I think the largest plant I have is 2,800 thin clients is what they're up to now. It's a consumer packaged good company, and it's a cigarette plant. So as people are smoking less and less, so they're consolidating all their plants into one. It's Philip Morris in Richmond, Virginia. So they have 2,800. They started, the first project was 12 years ago, maybe more. They started with 250. They keep on doing as they do PC refreshes, they use thin clients. And it's on everything from custom written applications to InTouch, to Factory Talk View, to Delta V, to SAP, to an Emerson MES, you name it. Lots of different, so they have multiple remote desktop servers. Cameras, again, I don't have this camera connected, but step through the configuration wizard. All right, let's talk about panel views. So I have this panel view called Super Juicer. What's the name? What's the IP address? The VNC. Who asked that question? Yeah. So you'd go in, whatever the IP address is of that panel view, you would put that information if you have a name for it, like line 1, packing or whatever. What are you using standard VNC? The IP address, ports, and password. So once you've connected to all those panel views, now Theme Manager, it's now called a display client. So that whatever that screen is, you can assign it to terminals or users or locations.
So once you, say you have 20 of those, once you enter them all in, they're there.
So they'll be here like this. So, and I'll show you what it would look like. Container hosts, I won't get into this because a container host it's called Docker container technology, and we're using Docker container technology so that thin clients themselves, since they don't have an operating system, so it doesn't have a web server, a web client on it, right? So we use Docker container technology. You would say, I'm going to use a Firefox or a Chromium browser, and when that thin client boots up, it's going to download that browser to the thin client. But as soon as you unplug it, that browser goes away. So that's a way for your thin client to connect directly to a web server. So that's what we use Docker container. We're using it a lot more. You're going to see a lot more about it as our product evolves even more and more. We're starting to see a lot of customers just say, I'm not going to use servers. I'm going to try to reduce the amount of servers I have. I want to use everything web-based applications. I want to start sticking stuff in the cloud. All right, so once we connect to the servers, now we got to connect to what's called display clients. So this is where you're going to connect to that VNC, all those panel views out there. But let's start off with just Factory Talk View. As I mentioned, we have a bunch of SE applications running. I have Cookie Demo 1920, step through the configuration wizard. I'm not going to go through every aspect of it. What type of application? It's Factory Talk View SE distributed. It's available on 2 servers. I have it set up for failover, so primary and secondary. And then we're going to do what's called app link, where we're going to link specifically to the application. So down to the program paths and file names. So you're going to launch the session, and then we're going to launch the executable, and then once we launch SE, we're going to launch into the CLI file location. So that's what you see here. So if I turn this thin client off, those in the back won't be able to see it, but if anyone want to do a color commentator, yeah. I'm going to plug it back in. So the thin client's going to boot up. So the thin client's going to boot up. It's going to download our firmware. Uh-oh, what did I do? Remote desktop connection lost. See, I moved something. Did I turn off my server when I did that?
So wait, can I ask a question?
Yes, please, do help me.
Help you out.
Help me out here.
So whenever you design, like let's say you have one main monitor that is connected to this thing that version view, you can actually say that 1/3 of the screen can be a VNC connection to that panel view out there.
Correct.
The other third of the screen can be a connection to a web browser.
Correct.
And then the last one can be whatever you want.
An Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint.
That's called tiling.
It's called tiling.
Yeah.
All right, so you're learning what's called Demo 101. Don't touch anything. Don't even move it around. Don't do it. I've been doing this for too long for me to have done whatever I just did.
Right now.
You need it to crash? Is that what you need?
That's about it.
What? So when they in sales they say you're selling beyond the sale. They've already sold them. Why you keep on going? Shut up, right? So that was the first embarrassing. I had 300 people. It took me 10 minutes to get my server back up and running. The second one was I was doing a thin client replacement, and I used the wrong power supply on the thin client, and it went poof, and in smoke, it fried the thin client. And about 5 years later, some dude was like, this is in Colorado, he's like, you're the dude that fried the thin client. I'm like, that's me, I'm the dude that fried the thin client. Could you, at least you remembered me, right? I mean, sometimes it's a mess up is good, right? But any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if you have a screen, like let's say in a control room, and the operator's looking at that screen, and someone wants to remote in and see that screen, but he wants to manipulate something. How do you do that without, not necessarily manipulate, but like see other screens that the operator is looking at without interrupting what the operator is, like he's in the middle of washing a filter? How does
You can actually remote in and you can shadow a specific screen, like a specific physical screen.
Okay.
It might not be the screen the operator is interfacing with.
But how do you do it so that you're not interrupting or?
You can't.
Just want to have a second.
You would have a second session.